Hey, everybody, it's me, Virginia. Welcome back to Living on the Verge. So, today's a fantastic day so far. I am just in a great mood. It's a gorgeous Southern California day. And as I record this, it's kind of a house reset day, laundry day, and all kinds of little things are going on. We're getting the spa ready for hopefully a lovely soak later on this afternoon. And I just couldn't be happier to be spending a little bit of time with you again. So thank you for joining me. As we get into today's episode, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be chatting about. Today, we are going to have a little reality TV catch-up episode. There's a lot going on across all kinds of different shows and platforms. You got stuff on TLC, you've got stuff on Peacock. Netflix is showing up with its own brand of, reality TV shows that people are really latching on to. So it's not just Bravo. And I've been watching a little bit of everything lately. So I want to get into it and talk about it just for a little bit today. And as you know, sometimes I do deeper, more reflective episodes. But today it's just a fun reality check-in. Reality TV seems to be having a moment again. I don't know if you've noticed, but I sure have. It seems like some shows are thriving. Some shows feel like they're fading. And overall, there's a bigger trend happening. It seems like streaming platforms aren't afraid and are leaning into reality TV again, where for a while there, it was kind of stigmatized, right? And there's also this wave of nostalgia that we seem to be riding. Have you noticed? There's a real appetite for early reality shows. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. And then there's the social media aspect. This has really impacted the way we watch TV in general, but in particular, it has really become almost a marker and a measure for reality TV. Back in the early days, there was no social media. So it was basically a non-factor. But now viewers are following casts online. And before you know it, these cast members become influencers with huge followings. Think people like Paige DeSorbo, right? She started out on Summer House and left Summer House because she has become such a big influencer aside from her busy life. Honestly, Summer House became the smallest part of her world. And we eat it up as consumers and as the audience, as viewers, because somehow it makes us feel like insiders in their lives. It makes us feel like they're friends in our head. Back in the day, reality TV was kind of considered junk TV. But now it's actually one of the few genres that still brings people together to watch and talk about. I mean, there are countless podcasts alone based on reality TV, whether it be reviews or recaps or just simply observations of said shows. And so back in the old days, you did not have social media. When reality TV was really young, that's when blogging started. And I know that at least in the Bravoverse, housewives were required to maintain blogs and post to those blogs as part of their contract on a weekly basis. And that was how they interfaced with the audience. But there was no Instagram. And now we have the addition and influx of social media. And there's this weird evolution that seems to be taking place in reality TV because now, in a way, what's old is new again. So let's talk about what's happening in reality TV right now. And I want to start with the documentary on America's Next Top Model. One thing the documentary reminded me of was the infamous Shandy moment in Milan. If you guys watched back then, it was pretty impactful. I don't know how I forgot this, but here's the story. If you didn't watch back then, I'll give you a little synopsis. Shandy had a boyfriend named Eric back home. During a reward trip to Milan, she ended up sleeping with an Italian model while the cameras were rolling. The cameras captured everything. And then when she woke up the next morning, Tyra arranged a phone call with her boyfriend so that she could confess that she had cheated on him on camera. And that emotional "you had sex" moment became one of the most talked about scenes in America's Next Top Model history. But when we look at it now, it looks very different. Back then, it was sold to the audience as a group of people who got together to unwind and have a good time after a really long photo shoot day. And there was alcohol, and one thing led to the next, and people slept together. When you watch it through the 2026 lens, you get a whole different takeaway, at least in my opinion. And the takeaway was that wasn't a night of friends hanging out and maybe drinking too much and hooking up. That was, in my opinion, clearly SA. And it just reminds me of how things have changed and how different TV standards were back then. Reality TV pushed people into these incredibly vulnerable situations on camera in ways that feel almost shocking by today's standards. And on social media now, a lot of people are even questioning whether moments like that cross lines that wouldn't be acceptable today. I just told you how I feel about it. And here's another thing. I think Tyra honestly had a real opportunity in the documentary to address that through our modern lens and, I don't know, clean up her reputation, I guess, for lack of a better description. And in my opinion, she kind of missed the moment. There's also another America's Next Top Model related special out there. I haven't seen it yet, but it's called Impact X Nightline, America's Next Top Model 20 years later. And it's streaming on Hulu. And I understand it takes more of a news style look at the show's cultural impact. So if you've seen it, shoot me a DM. Let me know if it's worth watching. Otherwise, I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. Now, on a more serious note, and before I move on with the fun reality TV updates, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge something really sad that happened in the reality TV world earlier in the year. Most of you already know Mary Cosby from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City lost her son, Robert Cosby Jr. And it's one of those reminders that behind all of these shows and all of these personalities are real families living real lives. One of the things about being on reality TV is that you don't always get to control what becomes public. Something deeply personal and painful can suddenly become headlines and fodder for conversation. And I think that's something that we should always approach with care and compassion. From what we're hearing, the services were last week, and also the cast supposedly started recording last week without Mary, but Mary does indicate that she intends to return to filming at some point. And if that happens, it sounds to me like she wants to use the platform to bring attention to the struggles that led up to this loss. And if that's the case, I think that it could be incredibly meaningful and really amazing for many. But for now, my heart really just goes out to her and her family. Losing a child is just unimaginable. And moments like this remind us, be gentle with the people we watch on our screens. All right. With that said, let's shift back to the shows that are delivering right now. In all fairness, I'm a little behind on 90 Day The Single Life, but this show is just so chaotic, like in the best way. I think that's why I like it. So this season, we've got Sophie, Liz, Julia, and for some reason, we have Pedro. Remember Chantel's ex? Yeah. For some reason, they are all in the Dominican Republic, I believe, on a girls' trip. And the friendships are getting really messy. So there's tension between Sophie and Liz after a girls' night out. Pedro is questioning whether Sophie is actually ready for a relationship, which just makes me laugh. I mean, the gall of Pedro to question anybody is just hysterical to me. And Gino is still trying to win Natalie back. Now, I didn't see that one coming. I thought Natalie was really brave and outspoken and refreshing when she told Gino off and said, I don't run my life like this and just leave me alone. So imagine my surprise when I saw that she is back still indulging Gino in what could potentially be a relationship or not. But it just feels like this storyline refuses to die, along with Gino on TLC. Meanwhile, Colt and Courtney are trying to keep their spark alive, but they seem to be dealing with the same intimacy issues that they've had for years. And it seems to me like Colt is kind of a problem child. I don't know how you can get someone in your life that is a better match for you than Courtney and still manage to try to screw it up and then admit that you're doing so. And Kim, remember Kim of Kim and Usman Fate? Yes. Well, Kim, she's trying to make peace with her past while also exploring possibly a new relationship. We see a lot of Kim. She's on Pillow Talk and she's kind of all over on social media as well. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's slightly ridiculous. And honestly, that's why we watch 90 Days. So I'm not too mad at it. I want to move on to Survivor 50. I wish I had tons and tons of things to say, but here's what I have to say about Survivor 50. I am recording this new season because that's one of the shows my husband and I will actually sit down and watch together. Survivor brings back a lot of nostalgia because it is a show that we used to watch together as a family back when my kids were all little and we would all sit around the television and watch TV in real time. Remember where you either had to record it on a VCR and then sit down and play it back, or you had to catch it live, or you just missed it altogether because we did not have on-demand television 25 years ago. I love the nostalgia of this show, and I'm excited about some of the returnees this season. People like Suri Fields and Ozzie Lust, Colby Donaldson, Coach Wade, and of course, Mike White from White Lotus fame, who was originally on Survivor back in season 37. But before I can chime in on how I really feel about this, I need to come clean and tell you that I'm waiting to watch that with my husband because it's one of our shared shows. And even though I hear great things, I have not watched. So I'll let you know how I feel as soon as I get through episodes 1 and 2, which are sitting there waiting for my husband and I to make the time to watch together. So with that said, I want to move on to the shows that to me are feeling a little tired these days. And it's not a moniker that I assign without a lot of thought. So the first show that is earning this title, at least in my reality TV brain, unfortunately, one of my favorites, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I know. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills has definitely shifted over the years. If you think back, early Beverly Hills was really about luxury, lifestyle porn, real estate porn, and Beverly Hills excess. But we loved that. And lately, the show has leaned much more into the women's actual lives and their struggles. Things like Kyle's marriage issues, which we've been talking about for 3 seasons. Dorit's separation from PK, which is full-blown into season 2 of The Chaos. And Sutton's personal vulnerabilities and evolutions, which we've also been following since we've been following Sutton. Let's be real. Beverly Hills used to be about diamonds and private jets, and now it's much more about what's actually happening day to day with these ladies. And another interesting shift to me is that, I don't know if you've picked up on this, but Kyle isn't really the center of the group anymore. For years, she was the anchor of the cast. First, it was Lisa Vanderpump, but ever since LVP left, Kyle was the, unmitigated center of that group. And now she feels more guarded and she's stepping back socially from the girls, and her storyline's kind of not there. And the group doesn't orbit around her in the same way anymore. And then there's Sutton. Sutton started off, if you remember, as this somewhat awkward addition to the cast. She almost didn't fit in. And something interesting has happened. Over the course of the seasons that she has been on the cast, she has quietly become one of the most important housewives because she's unfiltered. She's not afraid to ask the uncomfortable questions. And unlike some of the other housewives, she doesn't really seem to be producing herself. And if you're wondering who I'm referring to Amanda, y'all. Yeah, I know she has been a really big part of this season. I'm just not a fan. And I know I sit with a lot of you who feel the same way. This girl is either gotten a really bad edit or she just has a lot of really bad material to edit through. And it's easy to give her this villain / self-absorbed edit that she's gotten. But I bought into it. I'm not a fan. And I love the addition of Rachel Zoe, but I have this sneaky suspicion that she's somewhat producing herself. I mean, think about it. She had a show for years and years and years. She was the executive producer of the show. And so it's really hard to put that hat away and just be effortless when you're on a show where you can kind of shift the direction of things by how you handle it. I kind of see inklings of that going on. I'm not mad at it. I like Rachel Zoe as an addition. I can't imagine how boring the season would have been without her. And I love the new Erica that I'm seeing this season. And I don't know how I feel about Bose. I still think she's a badass bitch. I think she's amazing. I really like the energy she brings. But a little part of me feels like she's doing too much. And I can't really put my finger on why I feel that way. It's just the way I feel. And I'm kind of over Dorit and her anger, although I guess we're getting to see another side of Dorit. It just seems produced to me. Will I keep watching? Probably. Beverly Hills still has drama, but the tone has definitely shifted from, I don't know, glamorous chaos to something a little more real. And I like that in My Housewives. I just didn't know that I would get it from Beverly Hills. I kind of expected to get it from another avenue. I kind of like the pomp and circumstance and the glitz and diamonds that I had come to depend on Beverly Hills for. But alas, it has become something else. And I want to move on now and talk about Vanderpump Rules, just really briefly. So Vanderpump Rules is somewhat of a reboot, right? They kept the title. I think that was a mistake. They kept the music. I think that was a mistake. They changed everything else. There's a whole new cast, but it's in the same restaurant. And I feel like they're trying to capture what they had with VPR the first time and that they just somehow missed the boat. Honestly, I think Vanderpump had its moment, and I'm not sure it will ever quite recreate that lightning in a bottle energy again that we had become so compelled with that show for. But I will say one thing. I'm still loving Natalie. I think hands down she's my favorite cast member. And I met her and chatted with her during the filming of the Pride that ended up being the season finale. And I actually recorded her performance, which was way longer than what we saw on film. So maybe I'll post it on my Instagram and so you guys can take a look at that. But what I like about Natalie is that she is the same girl that I chatted with at SUR that day as she is on camera. And I don't think anybody would argue that truth about Natalie. So I'm not sure that this show is going to succeed in the long run. But at the end of the day, reality TV will always be fun to watch and to talk about. And the truth is, the best reality show any of us have is our own real life. And speaking of real life, let me bring you up to speed on life on the Verge these days. Let's see. Okay, let's start off with Bailey at Disneyland. I took Bailey to Disneyland. You may remember I mentioned that trip was coming up and we went for her birthday. And you guys, it was such a great day. It's just amazing to me though how much she's grown up. I've taken her to Disneyland several times before, and the experience that we had this time was completely different than any other one we had had before. We started off at Disney's California Adventure, and the weather was great. It wasn't too hot, and that was a blessing because we were going to be doing a lot of walking. And I wanted to make sure that we got all the rides in that Bailey really wanted to ride. And when I asked her what those rides were, she said Guardians of the Galaxy and Space Mountain. And Rise of the Resistance. Those were the three that she wanted to. Oh, I'm lying. And she wanted to do Monsters, Inc. because she thought it had closed down and she was so excited to see it was still open. So our choices were pretty easy because Rise of the Resistance was closed, so that wasn't an option. And we started off our day at DCA. What I haven't told you is that I have this, I don't know, fear that I had to face. And I use the word fear lightly. Some time back, I was on Rise of the Resistance with my son. It was the very first ride of the day. And at the first drop, I felt my rib crack. It was the same rib I had broken once before, and it just made a popping sound and it cracked. And there you go. I walked around Disneyland with the broken rib. And for that reason, I have, a little bit of a reluctance to ride that ride again. But I did. I faced my fear. That was the first thing we did. We got on the ride. There was a really great moment when we were able to ride cars, which was something else that I didn't realize was such a big deal, but it was a big deal. It's one of the ones that they sell a fast pass for $23 per person just to ride. And we got lucky and came up after the ride had been closed for a while and kind of sat around. I may have talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but we were able to be the first people in the queue when the ride reopened. And so we saved ourselves the 100-minute wait and the $23 a person. So it was win-win-win. And even though that was one that she was silently hoping to go on, it wasn't one that she expected to go on because of the wait and because of the extra cost. So that was kind of a Nana bonus win. And we were having a great day. We stopped, we got drinks, we did all of the things that we needed to do. And then we headed over and we were able to ride Space Mountain. We got beignets and we got mint juleps. And then we had a great afternoon at the Disneyland side of things, having been able to go on all of the rides that she wanted to go on. We actually left the park at 5:30 p.m. I was blown away. I am used to, having to stay till the very, very bitter end and trying to get on every possible thing. But when I asked Bailey, she said, no, Nana, I went on everything I want to go on. Can we just maybe drive through for some food on the way home? So that's what we did. It was just such a happy day for me. We were able to get so much done. We went on all of the rides she wanted to go on. The food was great. We got all of the treats that she wanted to get. And the pace of the day was perfect. It wasn't rushed. It didn't feel stressful. It was just a really, really good day. And of course, we have baby Ezra. It's time for an Ezra update. Honestly, this little man looks just like his mama, down to the dimples. And he has the calmest temperament. He's just such a chill little guy. I honestly forgot how much I love babies. The smell, the noises they make when they crinkle up their face. All of that stuff is just, what a blessing to be a grandmother. And my son, the guy is absolutely over the moon. And you know what I really, really love? I didn't realize how important and impactful it is, but I love that both parents get to take time off legally now to bond with their babies. Watching their little family bond has just been really, really precious. And I can't believe I'm lucky enough to just get to go over and visit and feed him and hang out. I truly do feel really blessed. Well, let's move on to travel news because I'm excited to report to you guys that we are planning an upcoming cruise. We will be flying into San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we'll be visiting several islands in the Caribbean. What islands, you ask? I'll tell you. We will be going to St. Kitts and Nevis, St. John's, St. Martin, Turks and Caicos, and end up in Florida. You guys, I'm so excited about it. It's a 7-day cruise. It came up really quickly. And of course, I'll be covering it for the podcast, but it'll be here right before you know it. And with Easter coming up, it means everybody will be home. My family will be here. And that, for me is one of my favorite things, is having all of my kids and my family under the same roof and being together. This time we're going to be celebrating Ethan completing his sacraments, which is such a special day. And then it's going to be his 10th birthday and, of course, Easter Sunday. So we're going to be doing that all at once. And I think we should call it the Easter of Ethan. I think he deserves it. This little guy has been working for 2 years on his sacraments, and at the Easter Vigil, he will be a confirmed full-fledged Catholic, and I am so proud of him for what he is doing and how he has leaned into his faith. Way to go, Ethan. And here's another thing that I'm really excited about. The time changed, right? And it reminded me that we're getting closer to the time of year I love the most. And that's the time when we start having our family barbecues and the family gets together and we just hang out, and it always breaks out into karaoke. And I love that. That's just one of my favorite things about the springtime, is looking forward to those moments with my family. It's time for Winos on the Verge. My quick, honest take on where we went, what we drank, and whether I'd go back. This week, we visited GBV Winery on the Di Portola Wine Trail. GBV stands for Gershon Bacchus Vintners. The vibe there is really welcoming and relaxed. It feels like one of those wineries where you can actually settle in for a while instead of doing the quick tasting and getting out of there because there's buses and buses coming in behind you. It's really social. We got to talking with other people at other tables. It's friendly. And honestly, it feels like kind of a hidden local hangout. GBV sits right out on the Di Portola Trail, which already has that wine country feel. And in my opinion, is honestly prettier than the main drag of Rancho Cal, where all the wineries, the bigger wineries sit. GBV was gorgeous. The seating is comfortable and casual. Parking was easy. And the atmosphere was lively but not chaotic. We were there on a Sunday and it was kind of a quiet afternoon, which I just welcomed. The standout pour for me was the Mourvedre, which I thought was fantastic. It had great depth, and it was one of those wines where you immediately want another glass. There really wasn't a skip for me that day. I really enjoyed all of the wines, but the Mourvedre was definitely the star. Of course, I brought a bottle home, and we didn't really focus on food. We brought a charcuterie, which they allow, which is fabulous. Our friends went and got all kinds of fun goodies and laid it out on the table. And being who she is, my friend was offering the servers and the pourers and the other people sitting at other tables bits of our charcuterie, because that's just the kind of gal she is. And it was fun. It was one of those days where we ended up doing the one thing that I really love doing at wineries: just sitting and talking. The service, fantastic. Sonia was pouring and she was amazing, really vivid with her descriptions of the wines, super entertaining, and clearly very knowledgeable. This young lady knocked it out of the park. And we even got to sit and chat for a while with the owners, Christina and Kenny, who were incredibly welcoming. We sat there for a few hours and had a lovely afternoon. My husband even bought a shirt, so apparently he is now officially part of the GBV clique, if you ask Kenny and Christina. So, the verdict? Go if you want a friendly, social winery where you can actually relax and enjoy the experience instead of rushing through a tasting. I give GBV 4.5 out of 5 glasses of wine. And that's this week's Winos on the Verge. You guys, reality TV is fun. I love the absurdity, the waves of fun, intermingled with the fights, and then the eventual resolve. And I know I'll probably always watch some form of reality TV to some degree. Heck, I've been doing it for decades already. But the older I get, the more I realize the real entertainment is actually watching the people you love live their lives. The small moments that mean so much. The laughs with friends while you're sitting there having a tasting at a winery, or the cuddle with your newest grandbaby. Those are the moments. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who you think could benefit from listening to it or would just enjoy it. I would really love that. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time. Until then, I'll be here, living on the verge.